What's up, y'all? Thank y'all for tuning in to Brunches of Bunches. We have a special episode today with the Mean Podcast.
I'm Johnny Kendricks.
And as always, this is B Rivers.
And you know who we are, Raj, and this is my favorite co-host, Vicky. One of them.
Excited to be doing this episode. First of all, we appreciate the scenery. We don't have anything like this, so
not at all.
We just shoot in front of a doesn't matter.
Trap garage.
Trap
it's
garage.
Fine. It's just being renovated right now.
Trap garage studio.
Whole studio. Being renovated.
So, how's this podcast experience been for y'all?
I feel like every week we learn something new. It's definitely an experience for us, but we're seeing a lot of growth already.
What inspired y'all to even start a podcast to begin with? I know you guys talked about your relationship off camera prior. What started you guys down this path of starting a podcast?
Okay, so basically, I feel like the podcasts right now are trending, and I feel like a lot of them aren't holding authentic conversations, and mostly just talking about things that are trending with trendsetters and our leaders, but not necessarily sitting down and talking about opinions and perspectives. And so the podcast is kind of a platform where we want to tell stories, when we want to share different perspectives and be able to inspire people through the conversations we have, whether it's giving you knowledge or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I definitely align with that as well. I know for us, we just wanted to create a platform for, our voices to be heard, for us to talk about issues and be really objective about it and not try to sway people, either way like media does a lot of times, So that's been kind of one of our missions, just kind of give you guys whether we're talking about like a current event or so, or news or whatever, we'll give the people the facts, and we'll say our side, but we won't tell you what to think or how to think.
Exactly.
So we want to create interesting dialogue.
Yeah, we really just focus on creating an open space for any perspective. Like, we don't like saying we're far leaning left or right. It's just whatever people want to talk about it. Just be able to defend however you feel.
Exactly.
Don't come on here looking foolish.
Absolutely.
Before we get too far into this show, can we take some shots?
Okay.
Can we loosen up a little bit? Cheers to this collab.
Here we go. Cheers.
Oh, okay.
Now, I like how...
Y'all need the chasers. Okay.
Yeah. I like how and they forced this dark on me. This is colorism at its finest.
Yeah, I think that's
All
what
right.
happened. He spilled his life.
Now let's say the facts. My man spilled his.
So, what we like to do on our podcast, we like our audience to have a little background into our guests.
Okay.
Even though we're like collab guest collabers. So, if y'all feel so inclined to just give any type of background on what you're passionate about, what you love doing, we'll do the same for y'all.
I think I'd say I'm passionate about conversation. There's so much growth in it, and to your point, you don't have to have a particular view, but having the opportunity to talk about whatever it is, I think there's growth in that,
Absolutely. That's how you grow, because you get your perspectives challenged, and sometimes you gotta retool and come with something better.
And to your point, like, they'll ask you what you believe in and why, and that's your opportunity to know and explore why you believe in whatever it may be.
And explore something new too. Be open-minded about the conversation so that you can learn something. Yeah.
It's important, open-minded. It's just like, if someone comes on your show and talks to you about something and you disagree with it, but you don't have no solid reasoning as to why, just because it doesn't align with yours, how do you grow in that situation,
Yes.
Yeah, I need to check out that.
Just so they what about you, Raj?
I think one of my passions also is conversation, but just also like being able to pass on good vibes, good company, good energy, you know, and I feel like a form of doing that is through conversation. But then again, it's like I like to be in the community. I like working with youth and, you know, making sure they know the fundamentals of life and inspiring them. But yeah.
She's on the groundwork.
Yes.
What about you, Mr. B. Rivers?
Just like my passions. Just aside from our podcast, we've been doing that for a while. I'm definitely passionate about that. I see us going a lot of different places and opening the doors for it as well. But I'm an actor. Along with my fiance as well. She's an actress too. So I've been doing a lot of commercial work.
Okay.
But right now I'm getting into theatrical and film and whatnot. Obviously with coronavirus hitting, that has kind of slowed things down production wise. There's still some productions going on, but you know, it's just not moving as fast as it once was.
Right.
So I'm waiting for that to come back up. So, you know, aside from podcasting, that is one of my biggest passions for sure. Something I put a lot of work into. But yeah, I like what you guys said about dialogue as well. I'm passionate about growing. So podcasts has helped me grow, just hearing different perspectives, hearing sometimes the way John thinks makes me open up my eyes to different things. My man has an interesting mind, you know. So, you know, that's just kind of where my passions lie at the moment right now.
Okay.
What about you, man? Got any kindred spirits?
I'm just a storyteller. I tell stories through many different facets, like videography, photography, podcasting, directing, producing, and I want to challenge the way people think, especially right now because of social media is so present in people's lives. People tend to group think a lot.
Yeah.
Like you see it with, this is a conversation we're gonna have on another podcast.
Okay.
just if you don't agree with a certain line of thinking, like, you know how I'm adamant about not voting. I will not vote. Especially for
We ain't gonna get in that. Wait,
See?
hold on.
Especially for a presidential election. Because see, I don't know if he told you. I
I
know if
haven't
he told you.
I haven't told
See, he didn't even tell you that. I said on air, Kelsey and Caleb, right. They changed my perspective. I do need to vote on a local level. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong. But presidential, absolutely.
Not work for you.
It's complete foolishness. but that's what I like doing, and I feel like I'm passionate about researching and knowing what I'm talking about, so I feel like I can do that.
Definitely.
And
I will continue to.
so I know one of the biggest things we have in common is obviously having our shows and whatnot. Can we all like kind of give something that's been like our biggest lesson we learned during the process? Because I've learned a lot of lessons during our process over the years. Trust me, I have. And I'll say mine is I'm not trying to be like deep or philosophical about anything, but double check your equipment, because there's plenty of times where we've recorded an actual full-blown podcast episode. I get back home to delete it, and that's gone. I know we talked about video off camera, but I've deleted actual episodes. That doesn't happen anymore, but that has happened. What's one of you guys' biggest lessons that you've learned so far?
Let me see.
You got one, John? All right, everybody's thinking?
We have multiple. Being prepared. There's been tons of episodes because we talk about specific topics.
Yeah.
And if you go in there and we're talking about elections, and Brian's like, well, you got to think about the electoral college. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that. Like, just, there's been multiple times, and I don't have any problem being wrong. There's been multiple times when I've made myself look silly on air or on stream, whatever we say is just by not being prepared. So that's my biggest thing now is like anything that I know we're going to talk about, it's like I'm going to be prepared.
I think that's probably one of our biggest ones too. Is definitely being prepared about the subject that we're going to speak on. Because it's been times where like we get in here and I'm like, okay, I know exactly what I want to say. And then we sit down and then somebody says something and it'll literally throw me off. And I'm like, what was I about to say next? Like, and then I'm overthinking and just staring like, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to elaborate on that. Raj and I, we know who we're going to interview or have a dialogue with. We know what we want to talk about. We have questions that we'd like to ask that person, but don't be so adamant about asking whatever question. Go with the flow of the conversation.
I'm gonna force this question.
Go with the dialogue, you know,
Yeah,
because I
absolutely.
think if you're really attentive and present with the conversation,
Yes.
you'd find other questions that you want to know or you want to explore. So yeah, be agile.
I mean, that goes into just being a good conversationalist, and the biggest part of that is listening.
Exactly,
Because
yeah.
we've had guests, and they're like going through something that's deep, and like John said, I may not even know about it or have to prepare for that specific route that they went into. But if I'm listening, I can ask that educated question, even if I don't know about the subject at hand, you know. But sometimes I even get lost in the conversation. I'm just sitting there listening, like, oh, I gotta co-host the show. Wait a minute, what am I supposed to ask, you know?
Yeah.
So listening has been something that I've taken into consideration on the show and off air, whether it be in my personal relationships, you know.
Definitely.
Nigga is an expert at context clues.
Right?
I am elite. Now, recently, shout out to the homegirl JT. She informed me of this trending on Twitter. She said over the past 2 to 3 months, maybe 4 months, that there's been an ongoing discussion going on about black men not protecting black women. And I would assume that this stemmed from the whole Tory Lanez Meg altercation. I don't know if you guys have talked about that. We usually don't talk about stuff like that. And I don't care to now, but oh no.
I wouldn't say we don't talk about it.
We
haven't touched on that.
We don't.
that
Yeah, we
specific
haven't.
topic yet.
We haven't touched on it. So, do you guys agree with the? Or how? Let me ask. How do you guys feel about? You ladies feel about that sentiment? That's so hard. That is so hard to do.
I know the feeling.
How do you ladies feel about that sentiment that black men do not protect the black women?
Oh yeah, because there's so much to be said about it. But I think I want to start off with like the history of our relationships in general, and like how we've entered a place in society where it's so easy to degrade and dismiss the feelings of a black woman in general, and I 100% agree with that statement. Although I do feel like there are a lot of men who stick up for black women, they're by their black women. I do feel like the overall image of the black woman is she's not heard in society. Like in the case of the Tory Lanez situation, people didn't even believe Meg until she had to show her pictures. You know, like why would she make something up? You know, like why would she make that that she got shot? And the fact that she felt the need to protect him and he didn't speak on it at all. I don't know if he gave her an apology or anything, but he didn't even speak up for the trolling that she was receiving behind the incident that he caused. So for me, it's like, in that case, yeah, it's very evident. Like, the woman is not protected. The black woman is definitely not protected in this society. We can say that some black men do, but overall, is that my bad?
It's not moving either.
Woo!
Yeah, we ain't got these in Inglewood, bro.
We ain't never seen that out here before. I want y'all to know.
Bro, that shit is that nigga was stubborn.
Ooh-wee.
My bad. We done? Did
I'm
you-
done.
Victoria? Go ahead, eat your cracker. Well, let me ask, where did this, like I know you referenced this Tory Lanez situation. Is that the only situation though where you can deem that, okay, it's official, black men do not protect black women? Or is it just this instance? Like where else does that stem from, or is it just that?
Well, I think so they're going to be role models naturally because they have such a large platform and they know people are watching them and people do look up to them. No matter who they are, they're celebrities. I guess I don't really know, but I'm wondering, is it a color thing or is it just women in general? We tend to be nurturers, and so as a woman, Like, we want to make sure they're protected, whoever it is, whether it's a boy or a girl or whatnot. Like, is it about like the nurturing factor, or do you think?
I think it's the image that's pushed about black women in society. Like, okay, so I feel like black women in general and black men, you know, I think underprivileged communities in general are oppressed. Groups have this image in society, but black women to me are at the bottom, right? And so when I see like issues like this, even the recent thing that was happening on Twitter where women were coming out speaking on their them being raped, yes, and things like that. It wasn't a lot of black men speaking up, even just to be like, I hear you, I see you, I feel you. You know, it was a lot of backlash, if anything, you know, and I feel like that can happen to white women as well, or non-colored women, but like for black women, like it's literally, you don't hear us, you don't see us, you don't feel us. And that's because we don't see that in the media either. Like, there's no representation of that really being displayed, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't think that there's enough representation. Obviously, you can't say that every black man doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We'll be generalizing, but people who have these huge platforms aren't standing up for black women enough and kind of pushing that narrative. I think that's a healthy narrative that needs to be posted, and something that is true, that's happening. I saw a video earlier in the summer where a guy had like hit a black woman with his skateboard right in her face. I don't know if he was trying to get her number or something like that, but people weren't coming out condemning that because it kind of went viral a little bit. And I'm just like, where are all the people with these voices on these platforms that should stand out
That's
against
what I'm
this?
saying.
And it's not just black women that need to be speaking up, it's black men.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a fight that can't be won by black women alone. Like,
exactly.
They need their brothers in arms to stand next to them.
My thing is, I don't like men being bashed for not immediately just being like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I believe it. So it's like Meg came out and said Tory shot her. Okay, that's cool. And by no means do I ever mean to say there's a justification for Tory shooting her in the foot, because absolutely it is not. But men by nature, like you referred to with women, men by nature are logical beings. So it's like, well, yeah, Tory shot Meg in the foot. A man's gonna be like, why'd he do it?
What she do?
What
yeah.
she do? What happened? Like, he didn't shoot her in the foot. Regardless, he's stupid. There's no, like, to shoot a woman in the foot or shoot someone in the foot. Like, you're doing a lot of escalating right there. So that's stupid in itself. But like, there's so many cases, especially like rape cases, where it's like, oh, just believe this woman, but this man goes to jail just for no reason, and this woman's like, oh, well, yeah, he actually did. I was just mad. So it's like, I think people need to find a balance instead of just jumping on this bandwagon and saying like, oh yeah, men never protect, they don't care about women. It's like, well, it's split, because there's a lot of stupid dudes out there who's like, oh, well, Meg's a tranny.
Right.
And shit that makes no sense for any type of justification. And then it's just like, oh, well, I want to know all the facts.
Well, even that,
And I
though.
think-
My bad, go ahead, Ralph.
I think that's okay, honestly, because even women feel that way. Like, a lot of the people that were trolling her were a lot of women, you know, questioning the situation. So I think it's okay to question what happened, because like we were speaking on earlier, we don't always know the full story, you know. And like you said, I'm not justifying the situation at all, but it's okay to question it. But like, at some point, when do we start pushing like, okay, that was wrong? When do we start holding these men accountable for those actions? You know, because even now that we do know that he did it, it's like, okay, he got sent back to Canada, he's still living a happy life, you know. But when do we start to hold them accountable for their actions? Yeah.
I saw different posts when all this stuff came out about her saying that it was him. Even when the first story came out with her getting shot, I saw a lot of people say, well, what did she do to get shot? I think the first thing that should come to mind is, yes, as Sean said, where are all the facts of the story? But I've seen people come out and immediately say, what did she do to get shot? And that's putting the blame on her. And you can say it's victim blaming in a way. But yes, I want to know all the facts as well. And if I'm a rapper, I'm like, yo, Tori, you gotta say something, man. What's going on? Because right now, you know, you're looking down on the scoreboards. It ain't looking too good. Off of hearing her story, it's like, okay, I believe what she said. Do I know if it happened or not? I don't know. I'm not saying come out and cancel Tory Lanez, but at least demand some of the context of what's going on. You know what I mean? I feel like he has an obligation to say something, not to make it all just about, you know, just them two. The story is bigger as far as black men not protecting black women, but come out and ask for the facts, not victim blame, and say, well, what did she do to get shot? I think that's kind of a weak way to look at it for some people.
I think also to your point, you go about it with the facts. So there's two sides to every story.
Exactly.
We heard one side, we're waiting on the other side. So it's like, in a way, he has his opportunity to let us know what happened, just to add more facts to this situation and scenario so we understand a little better. But I guess to your point, why is the immediate question, well, what did she do? I think sometimes, naturally people are wondering what happened, but the words they choose is what she did. Like, what did she do? When really, like, they really want to know what happened.
Yes.
And it's not about, like, what she did or what he did. It's like, what happened in general? What was the scenario? What took place? Like, give me the facts.
And that can be insensitive. Like, those words being used to ask those questions can be seen as being insensitive at the time.
I think that's what
agree with
leads
you.
to us saying that black men don't protect black women. It's not the fact that black men haven't canceled Tory Lanez. It's the fact that people come out and say, what did she do? I think that's the leading factor towards it, at least in my opinion. But if every dude came out and said, well, what happened? I'm not going to say me personally, I'm not going to say that they're not protecting black women.
Same,
Black women
yeah.
might feel a different way. But when you come out and start pointing the finger inadvertently, then that's when it comes to that subject of they're not protecting black women.
And I kind of want to go back when I say, like, taking accountability, in a sense where, like, Tory Lanez feels something near me. Don't do that. I feel like giving, like, Tory opportunity to speak his mind with also, like, not being trolled in a way. Like, I feel like both situations, because of social media, they're both going to get trolled just because of the platform they have, but it makes it harder for him to speak up about the situation, even if he's wrong. You know, I mean, he is wrong, so it makes it even more difficult for him to open up about the situation. But, like, giving him that space and that opportunity to actually speak with honesty and some type of, you know, like, I don't know, like, if you remorse, maybe. I think that's kind of what we're looking for. Like, you were wrong. You know, and that's part of the image right there. It's like, speak up. You were wrong. It's okay. Fix it, heal, get yourself together. I don't know.
I don't like well, I want to address what you said before, like, when is it ever going to be time to hold people accountable? And I think us as a community, we have to do better with that, with everything. I don't think that it's so.
I'm not playing with the bugs today. Wait a minute.
God damn.
Hey,
Hey, that beat was aggressive as fuck.
Like, park it right here real quick.
My thing is with our community in general, it's like we can't be selective when we want to call out grapes.
Yes.
Like, we can't be selective, like, oh, well, we want to call out. He said, I'm here to stay.
Cute.
I don't like these
We not even eating.
We got a lot of evidence.
Yeah, I'm done.
A lot of evidence. They gotta edit all this out.
Because this is some bullshit. I don't like the selectiveness for it to be like, okay, well, when are we gonna stand up for Tory being disrespectful? But it's like the whole hip hop culture in general there's an issue with it. Like,
I agree. Yeah.
all of that's corrupt. All of it is unhealthy for our community. So my thing is like the selectivism of it, where it's like, oh, okay, well, black men don't do this for black women, or black women don't do this for black men. And at the end of the day, I feel like all it's doing is dividing us even more so. So that's why I don't like I don't like any of these groupthink conversations where I personally feel like the only reason this is even a conversation is because
It's trending.
It's trending on Twitter.
It became an opportunity for us to talk about.
And it's like
Yeah.
all that does in the meantime is separate. It's like, oh well, black men don't do this. Oh, shit, women are bitches. Black women always got an attitude.
But then I think it becomes evident, like in a situation like that. Like it just becomes more evident because we could see it happening in our daily lives, and it's just not in front of everybody, you know. So then it does become a bigger conversation because now everybody has access to see what's going on. To your point, I don't think that we should group think. We should all have our opinion on it. But yeah, I do think that it brings light to the situation because it's happening in front of all of us.
It's been a fun episode. I like these collaboration episodes. I don't know how you guys usually end your shows. Is there something that you guys want to add into that?
Yep.
Okay.
It's a wrap.
Wait, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, check us out on YouTube, you guys. And it's a wrap.
And also, just make sure you guys catch new episodes of the new podcast every Wednesday on most major podcast platforms, but definitely Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud, kind of like the heavy hitters. And, yeah.
Stay tuned.
I know I wonder.